In Goa,
Yes.
we have a lot of mining activity.
Yes.
Right now it is stopped. And the pollution because of the mining was immense. And there have been agitations against it. Right now the mines have been stopped. In Korea, what is the approach towards environment?
Well, in the beginning, when we had the wild days of early capitalism, environment was not an issue. It took some time until the economy had sort of reached a certain level and the people had more time to think. That is an important factor. That they said, look, we cannot drink the water anymore, there's something wrong. And nowadays the environment spirit is very strong. Korea wants to be a green country and it wants to be a leader in ecological development.
Well, I think Korea plays a big role in everybody's life in the world, like in Goa, I mean in India, the Samsung, the television, the phone, Hyundai cars, LG, all these are Korean companies.
Right.
Now, how did this miracle of such great economic development, industrial development happen, and who initiated it?
Well, the beginning is in the times of a strong military leadership, which had two sides of it. Socially, it was a big problem. Economically, it laid the groundwork. And then a very intelligent move was from the very beginning, even right after the war in 45, from the first 5-year plan on, the investment in infrastructure was priority. And then later, they had a very strong 5-year plan, but with lots of flexibility. They would check the different development stages, and when they found out that one of the stages cannot be reached, they would change the plan. But within the system of the whole thing. An example, sometime they discovered that we are an export nation, but we don't have a foot in Africa. We must. So in the next 5-year plan, they had, I don't know, 5% we will export to Africa. So the first Koreans traveled to Africa, and they found out that theoretically it's a good idea. There's thousands of people, millions of people. The problem is they have no money. So they changed that. Then from the 5%, they went back to 1% within a year. So with this kind of flexibility, there is planning. So the whole economy is sort of going in the same direction. But if one thing does not work, they will change this one thing without throwing the whole plan into the trash basket.
So the basically economic development, the foundation was already laid in 60s.
Right, late 60s, 70s actually, and then started Park Chung-hee, the father of the current president.
Oh, he's the father of the current president.
Yes. Park Geun-hye is her daughter, and actually she grew up in the Blue House, which is the government's president's seat. And when her mother was killed, remember, her mother was assassinated.
And the father was also assassinated.
That was later. And in between, this lady was already the substitute first lady, even in her young age. You know. So, but she must say, she has been elected.
Well, in India, we also have this kind of a family raj that one family controls. This happens. And in Korea, I think is not anything different.
There's one difference. It's not a family. The family is not rich or anything. It's not powerful. It is the party. She has been the leader of the party for 4 years before she ran for presidency. So it was the party who really was behind her.
And why was he assassinated, her father?
Well, as I said before, the dictatorship had two sides, economically and socially. Economically, it was very positive. But socially, the strict way of forcing the population to follow his ideas was also helped by a very strong secret service and a strong police, strong military, which in the end was really a terrible dictatorship.
Okay.
So, and you know who killed him?
No.
That was his CIA chief.
Okay.
Because by then, the CIA chief, he knew that the population would not take it any longer. But the president would not listen. So he killed the president.
Okay. Now I think the last part of our talk, let's
something nicer, yeah.
We concentrate on culture.
Yeah.
Let's talk about basically the influence of tradition on Korean art.
Yes.
And modernity and tradition, the conflict in the world of art.
Actually, is a very good subject because we at the moment have two kinds of painting schools. The galleries would be doing either one. The collectors would collect either one. And one is modern, almost American, almost Western painting. And the other is traditional painting, which seems to have stopped by the end of the 19th century and it's being continued since then. And very few people are trying to look at tradition and paint in a way that modern views are combined. Very few of them do, except in the field which is actually very Western, which is comics. There's a change, but in normal painting, what you have on the wall, you have a traditional one which is not being able to modernize, and you have the very modern one which has no connection with tradition, almost.
I think this is also very similar in India, because what happens in India is the British started 4 art schools in Lahore, Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. And this 4 art school basically produced a lot of works which were derivative works. People started copying the Western way of painting. And a whole lot of Indian artists, the traditional Indian artists, almost died.
Yes.
And something similar happened in...
Something similar happened, but the traditional one is being kept alive by the state. There's a system to help people who continue traditional ways of production, and this would be one traditional way of production. We call them national treasures, living national treasures. Okay. And some of them are kept alive and they have their schools. But what we don't have really enough, in my eyes, is that people who are trained in traditional painting then apply their techniques combined with modern views.
That does not happen.
Very little. Unfortunately.
What is a kind of a situation in public art in Korea? Do you have a lot of public art?
We do have a lot of public art because there's a law. Whenever you have a larger building, you have to give a certain amount of money for sculptures and for land art and stuff like that. And we have a very vivid art market where arts are really something like shares.
Okay. You know, one of the problems in India is, I would say for the last about 300-400 years, we haven't produced any public art of substance. That does not mean that we do not have artists. We have a lot of artists, but none of their work are put in the public spaces. Like we had Ajanta, Ellora, Khajuraho and all these great things which were done in 500-600 years ago and more. But then in the last 400 years, nothing of this caliber has come in the public domain, and I feel that is basically because the politicians choose the art. Art choosing is a very serious business, and it should be left to the professionals. How does it happen in Korea? For example, if a public sculpture has to be set up, in most probability in India, the chief minister or the chief secretary or another minister would be sort of in charge of choosing that. And this person has absolutely no kind of a knowledge of what to choose. So how does it happen in Korea?
In Korea, you have always, when there is a big sculpture to be put in a public space, you have a discussion in the newspapers, you have a discussion in the TV stations, people would talk about it, and the result would not always be very democratic, but at least in the beginning there is a participation of the people. And if they put up something which the people don't like, the people will tell that. They will make demonstrations and everything. So the idea of public space is our space is already very strong.
Okay. I wish really this happens here, because I think choosing art is a serious business, and one has to basically follow this module of public participation, and then basically curators choosing this.
Right.
Okay, to end up the discussion, would you enlighten us on the Portuguese connection with Korea?
My connection
No,
with
the Portuguese.
the
and
Portuguese
Korea.
connection.
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, because of Portugal, the paprika, the pepper, red pepper, came to Japan, and from Japan it came to Korea, and it's a basic spice in Korean food today. That is one. Another one, much earlier, is I've worked on the transmission of Buddhism in very early times. And there is one state in the first half of the first century, the first millennium, sorry, about 200 after Christ, AD, where the king had no wife, and it was given to him by a boat was sent from India, from Ayutthaya, and she, the lady in the boat, became the queen.
Of the Korean...
Yes, of this, and like the former president Kim Jong Il comes from a clan that is actually goes back to her.
Oh, wonderful. So basically we have a very ancient connection between Korea and India, and I really wish this is further strengthened.
Yes.
I wish that there are more kind of art exchanges between the two countries.
Yes.
And well, looking forward to have your kimchi again.
Wonderful. Let's work together.
I think it was a very, very fruitful discussion with Professor Sasse. We learned a lot of things about Korea, and I really hope that we have some kind of cultural exchange programs between Goa and Korea in future.